Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Overwatch League for our last match, at least, of this block of our broadcast, and it's an exciting one.
Yeah, I was going to say.
One of my favorite things, Matt, in the league is to check back in on matchups that we just haven't seen in quite a while. This is one of them. It has been, I want to say, it's almost a year, maybe a little bit under a year, since the NYXL and the Chengdu Hunters have got to play against each other, and the rematch, it's back.
It's also, I was going to say, I was like, you can't say it's the last match of the day because, well, that would not be true.
Now, what I've learned since being up at 3:30 a.m. is that day and night are both extremely relative terms. Yep. This has all turned me, Matt, into much more of a global citizen, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity also to catch this match, because last time these guys played, Matt, we had that narrative, I think last year especially, that, opting into the Clown Fiesta against Chengdu or trying to play the same pace, the same aggressive style. New York got swept up in that kind of game and were beaten handily by Chengdu in that way. Similar to how Chengdu managed to squeeze out that win against the Vancouver Titans earlier on that season. So the Hunters had this tendency of being able to really mess up game plans for a lot of our more regimented teams. And New York were considered to be a very defensive, very stable team.
I think regardless of that, this is a little bit of a trap game for New York. New York comes in, obviously, clearly a fantastic team. One of the best ones in the league still, I believe, regardless of the strength of schedule they played this far. With New York, though, you haven't played in a while, right? The lineup, though, you can see it pretty consistent, though, game to game. Nothing really too surprising. They haven't played in a while, and you play against the Hunters.
Was it week 5 in Washington we saw them play?
And you play against the Hunters, which is a really weird matchup coming back into it because they play so odd.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, they've had some time away. They look very good in DC. They pretty handily dealt with the Justice. I mean, Saviobi, Libero, Mano, Hotbar, Jonah, Animo. No. Yeah, we got to see, a couple of players like Bianca and stuff, get to take to the stage, Who Are You as well. So, Saviobi, Libero is an interesting combo.
It tells you they want to play May McCree. Instantly right away. I think of May McCree. You can play some Reaper there as well. Farah if you want to.
Libero's Farah is incredible. Saviobi's a very serviceable Reaper player.
Yeah, I would be shocked, though, if we don't see a ton of May McCree from this team, though.
I mean, I've still found it interesting with, Nene and Who Are You not showing up. Maybe they get subbed in later on. But here's our Chengdu Hunters lineup. I mean, Jinmu, Leave, Amon, Elsa, Molly, and Evil Talon. This is their core, I feel. They've looked decently. They look decent so far in this season. I mean, everyone's going to struggle against the Shanghai Dragons in their position. Were they 3 wins and 5 losses? I want to say
nothing talks to more like Owl Late Nights than Jinmu. Jinmu should just come in here. He could play Genji for all we know in this series, but he is one of the most.
It's just fan service at this point. Putting him in the roster, isn't it?
He's so exciting, and his mechanical skill is nuts. You see him come out on the Genji, and you're like, all right, this guy's trolling. What the hell? But he pops off. He's super strong as a mechanical player. And I think Chengdu overall, that's why they're so good when they get teams to opt into the Clown Fiesta. And it seems like, oh my God, it's a little bit of a joke, the way they're playing. But it's because they're all so talented individually, right? Where if they can make it more of an individual-based game, they have an advantage on a lot of other teams.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously Leave has looked really good this season. I mean, there was a ton of very high expectations for him coming in. And, I mean, we might see him play the McCree, or the Doomfist. I mean, Leave has got a pretty diverse pool, but a lot of those hit-scan heroes are really locked down there. So between him and Jinmu, you have all your bases covered. And Chengdu are still providing us this exciting style of play this year. They really haven't changed in that regard, thankfully. Our first map is going to be Oasis, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what the NYXL look like now. They're starting to dust off a little bit of that mold after being, sitting around and getting their practice in and not having a chance to play under competitive settings.
And having them now play in the Asia division is probably better for them as a whole. This is a team that I didn't really feel like, outside of probably Philly and Atlanta, we're going to have many challengers in the Atlantic. So now they can move in to this Asian region, and they can play against some of the other top teams in the league, where a lot of them are.
Yeah, that's what we sort of mentioned earlier on. Guangzhou, they're playing amongst giants, some of these absolutely top teams. I mean, this would be very Chengdu if they came out of the gates here with Amon on the Wrecking Ball. Now, unlikely we see Symmetra brought into the fight here just because there's not a lot of shields for her to benefit from, standing behind or shooting at.
Just a TP forward, probably. You're not going to run the Lucio. Ooh, so the 76 comes out from Sabiel B. So they want to play a little bit faster, a little bit divey, right? So that'll give one Soldier 76 instead of 3 in this instance. Obviously, better survivability on the Soldier just alone, right? You see Animo putting some armor packs on him real quick there in case like a dive comes through, but then you can just put down the consistent damage from range.
Yeah, Jinmu has to respect Mano here on that Winston. With the back right away here, and Amon, well,
rolling around.
Is he playing golf with friends or Overwatch right now? Hard to say. He's going to drop down on the point there, but Molly has already been removed by Jonak. And again, Molly has to be careful. No shield for Chengdu to play around. They have to be the aggressors, but if they get slowed up by someone like Sabiobi, for example, getting away from his assailants, Libero able to reposition, Animo just sort of, shield bashing. NYXL's composition is built for a longer fight where they can disengage.
Well, NYXL's composition is also built around a lot of their players on potentially their best heroes overall, right? So I think this could be a good comp for New York if they're able to make it work. Is Jinmu gets to the top of the point, getting closer towards a Dragon Blade here.
I mean, he sees these tanks. He only dashes on the hotbar because he knows he was low and he gets the Dragon Blade out. Hotbar's finished off. He was discorded there. What other targets do I go for? I mean, none of the NYXL players are playing close enough to be vulnerable, and it's just tanks to hit. So Jinmu doesn't even get a blade kill. It was a dash, and Amon goes down to Sabiobi. He's able to push around a corner now, and well, that D.Va's not going to do anything to shut down the heavy pulse rifle, and Sabiobi will have his day in the sun. And this really suits him, I feel. Self-sufficient, Soldier 76, really great over time. If you don't deal with him, it's just going to burn you down. You can't chase him down with Jinmu. You can't chase him down with Amon. He's going to run away on his granddaddy legs.
You think
some of
the best heroes that he plays, right? Like Tracer, 76, McCree, Widow. You think way back when he played like Roadhog, right? Like, you expect him to just pull down the 76 and be strong. That's an EMP up on the high ground. As Mono's going to pop Primal Rage here. Try and keep the point going in NYXL's favor. EMP used by Chengdu. 2 kills come out of it from New York. Unreal.
And they committed so hard to try and get rid of Jonak here. And I mean, to try and follow that up, Mano's able to pop Primal Rage in the perfect location. Sabiobi even Pack Visor. I mean, why not? If you've got it, use it at that point. The Hunters are fighting so hard, Matt, to get just 3 kills. They've only got 3 kills so far. All of them have been Jinmu, who's been able to get in there and actually find those final blows.
This is not looking good for the Hunters thus far. 95% for NYXL. Aiming, get on the point, roll around.
Yeah, no changes to their composition here. They want to try and maintain some of this old economy. Dragon Blade might have to be the option here. They really don't have much else to work with. They do catch Libero out here. That was pretty clean. Animo down now, and the Hunters actually have a little bit of room to work with. Amon has to be careful. Those Sabiobi's there already. Has a Discord orb on him. Jonak was able to find a kill. The NYXL couldn't see the point quite happening here. They say, okay, Chong, we can allow you to take the point. Stalling doesn't give them any advantage. They're only going to commit if they think they can actually win the fight. They'll let it go.
Yep, NYXL, they'll back out after that fight, but that's okay though, because look, they're going to come back into the next fight. They're going to end up with a Transcendence. Libero's going to end up with an EMP. You get a good use of that, right? Negates Jinmu's Dragon Blade, Molly's Transcendence. You have nothing to use here for the Hunters.
Sabiobi so pleased right now. No shields for him to worry about, and Libero was constantly hacking Elsa just to get easy ult charge and also to make it, well, easier for Jonak and Sabiobi to find their marks here. So NYXL still managed to find a defensive play style in amongst the mix of different hero pools we have week to week. Elsa's very low now. Amon's hit with a Discord orb, so we'll have to play out of line of sight. And so with the front line a little bit lacking in health, the Hunters have to give some space. This might allow Lee to come in from the backside here. He's looking for Jonak, who already goes for the Transcendence here. And amongst that healing, they're able to find Amon. Lee's going to have to back away now. He'll probably have to throw an EMP in here. He's got no other choice to try and stay in the round. And he got Jonak and Sabiobi. Jinmu has to try and follow up now with the Dragon Blade. He does just that. Both supports are down. I think Chengdu will be happy enough with that one. They had to use those ults, Matt, but it pays off, at least in part.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, right? I mean, you have to invest here in the Chengdu Hunters. Is maybe New York's able to turn this Libero with the EMP.
That's the Matrix! Oh, And Savior gets Jindu as he runs around the side. That is actually disgusting. Hotbar keeps the 76 alive, and Savior turns around and bangerangs a Helix rocket into the Genji. Jinmu's molding. He's going to switch over to Doomfist appropriately. And Savior is going to sit on the point now. 99%. The Hunters have to run up this one. Unbelievable D.Va player from Hotbar in that moment. Aim on shield fast as soon as he touches the point. He's hit with a Discord orb. He does get good adaptive shielding, so there will be some stalls, but Jinmu doesn't get very far in this fight at all.
How long do you keep this going for, though? I mean, it is not going to last.
That is demoralizing what we just saw there. The fact that Savior was able to stay alive. Hotbar got 2 kills, then kept his soldier. That's so wrong. Oh my god.
Chengdu, it looked like they were going to bring it back, and obviously they didn't. So New York just comes out with some sick wizard-like plays. So okay, so now maybe
I'm shaking in the club right now.
Now maybe.
Oh my god.
You shouldn't be in a club right now. You should be in your home. Stay home. No clubs.
What do you mean?
It's New York.
Listen, Matt, when we're doing this late night show, we can have the club wherever we want.
Oh yeah. Look at that. Somebody got bored, so they had to play with their toys. NYXL.
I'm not bored. I'm not bored by this match at all.
You know, it was a joke. But maybe with the way I present my jokes, people wouldn't know.
You
you didn't even let me go on what I was going to talk about. So now,
you go.
Now we get to see what Chengdu looks like in a slower type of composition, right? Where this is where New York excels. I'm interested to see how Chengdu's just developed overall as a team. If they've been able to make this type of playstyle work. When you can play a little bit slower, you have to play into these mirrors.
Gronak down early here also was able to push his way on that left-hand side here, and I mean, yeah, Sigma's going to do a heck of a lot for you in those enclosed quarters. Chengdu get the fight that they wanted by starting off quickly and pushing through, and Jonak didn't really have the mobility to get out.
Yes, Chengdu gets a really clean fight win there early on. You know, nobody builds up to ultimates to use in that first fight. Molly will have the M Matrix this next one, but I think Chengdu should be able to hold on to this point for at least one more fight with that big M Matrix.
Let's see if anyone can find some value with it. Fire strike through that. Rather pleasant. And the May as well. I mean, it feels pretty good for Chengdu. Make it hard for NYXL. They have to go together if they get their Ryan caught. What? Mano just barrows forward and gets rid of Jinmu. I don't think the Hunters were ready for that kind of burst. The Nano Boost hadn't even been used at that point. And I thought that they were just going to wall Mano up and get rid of him. That did not go the way that I thought it would. Mano's able to chase Elsa away from the fight, and now Chengdu are staggering themselves. They get some stall, but
yeah.
What is this? This series already makes no sense.
That was a fight that Chengdu, I mean, they should have been able to win. They win the first one, they have ultimates coming into that one, and they just beat it. So, there you go. Mano swings into the face of Jinmu. Now the tides have turned, and YXL with a big advantage here. You'll end up with Sound Barrier, Gravitic Flux. I mean, you got everything to use here, and I think that's the difference, right? It's like Chengdu, yeah, they can win the fights like when we do that mirror, but like sometimes they just they leave these fights that they should easily win.
And this is a perfect place for New York to take this fight. Deadeye forces them to the left side, and that is all Libero needs to just drop a blizzard on them.
That's what it should have looked like from Chengdu's perspective, but they had the advantage, right? They have a big advantage. In terms of ultimates, after that first fight, New York had none. Chengdu had the M Matrix. You could have got aggressive behind that, and they just they don't do anything.
The fact that Mano gets away with just diving into 6 people, falling about that's absurd. Well, the Hunters at least have 5 ultimates here for this next fight, and they've got some time to burn. So Greek Flux leads behind a Reinhardt shield, so pretty comfortable here. Mano already taken down early, so Flux is traded. So everybody gives a Flux. That's good to see at this time of night. Evil Tal going to play around the backside. They broke down. So Hunter's happy with that fight, but they spend 3 ultimates to get it here. New York probably had a feeling it would have gone that way.
Yeah, once the fight kicks off and you invest some of those ultimates and you lose one player, you kind of feel like it's going to go one way. Mano, he won't be able to get out of this one. He ends up getting caught on the wrong side of a May wall, but okay, well, Libero takes out Leave. Come on, let's not do this, Chengdu. Yep, back it on up. Good idea here, Chengdu. So they backed it up to the point. They know that NYXL has to wait for their Reinhardt. They can create more distance backing up here to the point and take a fight here.
Maywall gonna make it hard for Jinmu. He has the ice block immediately there, otherwise he would have been in a 1v6 essentially. And that goes so badly for Chengdu. I mean, they get caught out there. they're supposed to be in a position, Matt, as the people holding the point, to be able to use the May wall to segment the attackers. But New York just does it to them. They see that they're posted up the left side, presumably to try and get value out of the Sigma, and they cut them in half with the May wall.
Yeah, Jinmu, I mean, I don't know what he's doing off there on the side. I mean, there's even if he May walls a player off, like his team is so far away, Eviltal would have to speed boost directly at that wall, and then the NYXL would have just followed that right up, as that's going to be a sleep dart there. On a one, nice flash there from CWB. He's going to get out with his life. Mono's just in there with the nano boost, swinging for the fences.
Every sweaty, overstimulated McCree made a rank wincing at that double flash moment there. Mono still went for the shatter, hoping perhaps that he could set something up for the rest of his team. Xavier using those A and D keys pretty nicely. He's able to avoid getting taken down. Molly desperately trying to riddle him with bullets, but no, the NYXL are going to take map number 1 in this series. And mate, we start our narrative talking about New York being slow and stable, but mate, when they want to play aggressive, when Mane wants to crowd surf on Chengdu, it works out for them still somehow.
I'm sure they would have loved to not play aggressive, but you're kind of forced into it when Chengdu's just kind of charging you down. I mean, there's not really much else you can do. You have to kind of match that aggression and take control of those choke points. So
I love, but sorry.
But I feel like though that's something that when they added Hotba in the offseason, right? They kind of changed a little bit with having Meko more defensive. D.Va player, Hotba is kind of all over the place, right? So they added that little piece of to their game and their lineup, bringing him in.
I love that round 1 composition. The Sombra and the Soldier 76 look really good. A great way to try and use Chengdu's aggression to force them out of position. We got more maps to come. Don't worry about that one. Chengdu Hunters again. They're going to try and contain their rage after dropping 1 to NYXL. We'll see if they can bring it back. Map number 2 is right around the corner.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury. With HyperX Fury Memory.
Oh, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are still here. We are here for this matchup. NYXL Chengdu Hunters has already shown us some very exciting plays. And you know what I love about Chengdu, Matt?
What do you love about Chengdu?
You know, just like the sun rises every day, just like Wolf loves to call people out for forgetting to mention someone's Apex results, they always play by the seat of their pants, no matter what day of the week it is, no matter what region they're playing in. They always show us this exciting play. It has blown up in their faces as many times as not. But it helps to keep series like this exciting, and a team like New York has to be on their guard against this.
Yeah, I feel like Chengdu, you know the type of play style they want to play. They want to play wacky. They want to play aggressive. It's just, I think teams, from week to week, I think with hero pools, teams are going to figure it out, right? Or teams are going to know how to play it one way or another, where Chengdu, they just seem to commit to it, right? They're just going to roll with it and see what happens, where sometimes they're going to get beat.
My rider's riding your one-liners, I see. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, he came over to the good side. So
I lost the bidding war.
Yep. Hey, I mean, we know. I mean, look, if it's me and you bidding, I'm going to win the bidding war. But NYXL.
That's because you have $1 in your account for every time you say like in one sentence, bro.
Hey, I'd have a ton. I have a ton of dollars then. So NYXL looks good there in the first half. I think some people were worried about how they would potentially look coming off of a break, going into a tougher division. I thought they looked great, and I think having the tougher division is probably something that's going to help this team. They can't just look at the schedule and see, Boston and Toronto or Boston and Washington and be like, all right, hey, anyone want to play today? Like, all right, fine. Like,
well, I guess we're off to work today, boys.
They have tough games every week now.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the way that they like it, Matt, as well. You know, what New York's always been like, how hard they are on themselves. It's not only the caliber of the teams they're going against, is actually how diverse our play styles are across their potential opponents that they go up against here. Shout out to their coaching staff as well. It looks like what they've come up for this particular hero pool really not only suits them, but works very effectively against what Chengdu are going to try and do, which is to jump on you. They're trying to access backlines, and it's impossible to do that with the composition that we saw there. The Brigitte, the Soldier 76er Sombra. I'd love to see it. Paris is our map too.
Yeah. Let's see anything can happen on Paris, right? I think this is one of the wackier maps we have in the pool. It's just kind of all over the place in terms of results. So if there's one where Chengdu could potentially squeak out a win, I think it could be on this one.
We'll see. NYXL. She's still on the attacking side here, so I'm curious. Can Chengdu just, play back? Actually, we have subs after the break, Matt, which you didn't get a chance to mention. So Bacon Jack and 18 Later also comes in here. So a bit of a mix-up for the Hunters.
Yeah, and for NYXL, you have Who Are You coming in. So if Who Are You coming in for NYXL, maybe that's because they want to play a little bit more aggressive on offense. You could play like a Doomfist, let's say. So seems to be what he's hovering now. You can just play an aggressive dive here. And this is smart from New York, because when you see Chengdu come in with a sub of Bacon Jack, you know it's probably to play some type of hit scan. And then also with 18 coming into the lineup, you know it's going to be more Reinhardt based, right? So you can play dive, and you know exactly what you're playing into if you're the NYXL.
All right. Yeah, different look for the Chengdu Hunters here, at least in this particular round. And Libero on the Symmetra. Now, it's not just for the fighting potential. Getting past this choke is just so important. I don't think NYXL realized there was someone behind them actually playing close off to the side, but they speed in fast enough that Elsa's not actually able to really chunk them down quickly. Now he's in the high ground, though. New York had no idea what they were walking into, and that is kind of what using a Symmetra TP forward can do against you sometimes. You actually just walk into a field of view that you have no information on. And the position they had Elsa there playing on the flank was, they had no chance of dealing with that.
But this is what I thought they would play. They would play something extremely aggressive, something built around a dive, where you know that this is what's going to be on the other side for Chengdu. So now you play Genji Doom with a Winston with a Wrecking Ball. So typically both of these tanks played as main tanks, but played together pretty dangerous, right? The Wrecking Ball goes in, gets a big slam, the Winston can follow it up with so much cleave damage. You do lose Animo here at the start, which is a bit dangerous, but you still have Jonak, so you're not really that worried.
Well, I mean, you are worried to try and take the point.
Yeah, you're worried now.
You're probably not pleased about not having a Lucio to get you across the no-man's land.
Okay, fine. If you play within the line of sight of Jonak, you're not really that worried, but when everybody makes it by and Jonak is stuck over in the corner, you're obviously not able to get any type of heals out of him. He's still alive here, and they're fighting this.
That is a gigantic shatter. 3 players. There is 18, brings the hammer down.
You need Shatter and Amp Matrix to win that, though. It was Ana in the corner. You had a Mei wall to split off the other team.
Well, not to mention the fact that there's no shields to prevent you from really getting shatters.
Players jump over the top of the Mei wall, and you would think it was like a 6v6 fight that broke out. They pop the Amp Matrix and the Shatter. You didn't exactly need those.
Okay, that Maywall was really quite effective there from Chengdu. That
just all their
you to go around.
Here. I mean, that's going to be Blizzard and Deadeye there. So that's, that's almost all of their ultimates used instantly, and New York hasn't used it once.
No, but New York also, I mean, what's ridiculous about this is Chengdu maybe didn't realize that they'd actually prevented New York from making a proper push there. They split them in half, so they used their ultimates on what is apparently only half of the NYXL team. But unfortunately, they're not able to get kills from that either.
But now Chengdu's put themselves in a horrific position. You have just Blizzard, and NYXL's going to come in with, what, 5 ultimates here in this next fight? I mean, it's a horrible position. And the fight that you end up using the most ultimates in, you don't even end up, like, you win the one where you shatter.
You don't get a kill.
Matrix,
you don't get a kill.
Use all the other ones, you don't get a kill.
Yeah, I mean, when we have seen this happen in games before, Matt, the results are pretty bad.
It's an early Blizzard there from Jinbu as well. It's not even on the point.
I mean, we talk about snowballs, Matt. This one, yeah, might not be too different to that one. Now, who are you? Getting 2 there. Dragonblade pretty comfortably through in NYXL. It's a textbook snowball, Matthew. 1 tick already. And you know there'll be plenty more where that came from. I mean, Chengdu invited this. They invited this beast over the threshold into their house and said, hey, rob me for everything I have.
Well, it's also, so it's a product of, well, one, Chengdu just kind of throwing all their ultimates in for no reason. I mean, well, to be fair, they had a reason, but they just followed up on them horrifically. And then also, it's a product of Chengdu's roster, the non-flexibility of some of their players that makes what they're going to run extremely telegraphed. Like, remember last year when they would bring in Young Xiaolong, you knew it was going to be hit scan in some form. When they bring in Bacon Jack, you know it's going to be hit scan in some form. So that's where NYXL can make adjustments, and they can come out with a lineup like this, where, let's say if they had to run hit scan, you can still have Livero play like McCree or something, right? Like, he can pick it up. Where
this is
Chengdu,
that age-old argument about specialists.
It's very readable what's going to happen here.
NYXL. And I wonder as well, to be fair, they have been in Asia for a little bit now, so there's also the question, like, are these guys scrim partners? You know, because, like, speaking to a lot of teams when they were in the Blizzard Arena last year, like, they could just rattle you off. They could guess what teams are going to be playing in different metas just because they understand each other's tendencies as players. And Chengdu, yeah, I mean, they always like to make these wholesale substitutions, man. In fairness, they usually make sure that there's a projectile and a hit scan player in there. But I agree with you. When New York have so much to work with, who are you and Libero? Both are not they're designated as projectile players, the 2 of them, in general, right? That designation doesn't really hold in some situations, but New York have a bunch of jacks of all trades, and they have some kings of certain trades as well.
And if you're New York and they want to come out and they want to match you and play this similar type of game, you're totally okay with that.
Well, here we go. The Hunters, well, they get through their first choke without the Symmetra, mind you. 18 does take a ton of damage to his shield, and Elsa's caught out. So we'll keep you updated on that situation here. Hunters are now split 3 different ways. Now, Elsa's actually trying to use this to his advantage by playing a loose end, but he just got slapped.
What a sleep car, man.
He just gave him the pimp hand from across the map, Matt. That is, I mean, you hate to see it.
Also, I mean, Elsa's playing off to the side with no shield, no teammates. You know, all his teammates are playing on the other side. He was going to get jumped on, whether the sleep dart landed or not. Like, they were going to wall that off and jump down. But Bacon Jack on the flank, he'll get cleaned up. So Chengdu, you lose everybody. NYXL loses mono, but he'll be right back. And NYXL, they build up a good percentage of some of these ultimates, right? You have a nano boost here, potentially either using it onto mono to keep him alive. You could even use it on the Animo if you want. Nano the Greek. I hate that in the close quarter type of situation if they push on that left side. See, they earn the rally out of it as well.
I don't hate it. This time Elsa is going to opt to play with the rest of his team. Maywall throwing up there. Oh my, it's a 4-player fighting grenade now. Immortality people's throw down, so NYXL checked themselves before they went in and wrecked themselves. They just waited for that to be down, and I mean, yeah, that's what an Ana like Jonar can do for you. That is absurd.
But look, I mean, that's the difference between these 2 teams. For Chengdu to win that type of fight, they used Shatter and Amp Matrix in the last time. And New York could have easily come in and just, you know, everybody popped Q, right? They could have nanoed mono and he could have jumped down and shattered. It's just not necessary for the situation. And having that extra ultimate is going to be huge.
Well, we talked about a snowball on the attacking side. Maybe the NYXL can ride a bit of a wave on the defensive side here. Libero Deadeye doesn't really seem to bother Chengdu at all. Ball thrown up. Mano, I mean, this is exactly where he wants to be. Fire Strike in, Nano Boost. Now, the Blizzard is going to make it hard for him to get back to the point. It does effectively split the NYXL, but Hopper gets a pretty sizable Gravitic Flux here to catch 2 players with Chengdu. Now, he's in the same spot that Elsa was when he was defending, and that's where you want to be. Now, I mean, Mano back on Reinhardt, Matt. I mean, he hasn't, to be fair, he hasn't had to play through some of those hero pools recently when Reinhardt's not been available, so he is... He's not fussed, man. He's back in his wheelhouse and he's loving it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's totally fine with it. Libero ended up popping the Deadeye there because Lexa uses his Ant Matrix. So he uses the Deadeye to prevent them from... really, it just helps New York kind of get out of the way, right? You don't have a loose deal. You can use the Deadeye and just kind of move some players around. They don't want to play into that. As New York now gets aggressive as Who Are You gets caught.
Yeah, Immortality Field thrown down there, but the Blizzard comes after the fact. Mano was a little bit too deep there into the den, but the rest of the NYXL follow up pretty comfortably. And they are using these ultimates or these AoE effects especially really well, whether it's a Biotic Grenade or a Shadow or a Blizzard. That's exactly what's expected of them here.
And you know you're in prime position, right? All you have is a Blizzard. Hey, guess what? Let's play our Mei in close quarters in this really devastating choke and play aggressive around it. Okay, fine. Now you show them a different look. They're never showing them the same type of look on defense.
Well, Matt, time is short for the Pandas, as if they weren't already endangered enough as it is. 15 seconds left. 2 support ults to work with here. Hotbar keeping track of Elsa, trying to make sure he can't wrap around and take high ground and be a nuisance with those hyper spears. Hotbar gets to do that himself. Oh my! That is absurd! Mano, that is a big shatter, and that's going to be 4 players caught in the Gravitic Flux. Now still Mano and Libero have gone down, but Lexa has been removed. It's only going to be Evil Tar for the healing, and the NYXL have the staying power. Now do they have the damage? Accretion thrown in. Elsa's getting bopped around like it's a fighting game. Hopper going to take a step back now. There is a Reinhardt swinging at him. He does need to respect it. Needs to get the kill on the Sigmund though. Elsa finally drops down. 18 hit with a Bionade, and that should seal the deal. Jinmu gets rocked and socked out of Paris. And the NYXL headed at half-time, Matthew, 2-0.
Now, that was quick. This NYXL looked really good in our first 2 maps against the Chengdu Hunters. Chengdu, we've seen them give a lot of teams trouble in this region. They've beaten the Shanghai Dragons. They've taken maps off of other teams. Obviously, 3 wins for the season. But New York, I mean, they're giving them a beating.
Yeah,
it is a beating.
That is a paddling, Matt. That's what it's been so far. And the NYXL look really comfortable here. Chengdu, this is what happens. This is kind of what we thought would happen last year, as an aside, but it hasn't. They look really, really solid. Chengdu are switching up their roster. They're trying for ostensibly different play styles, but New York are solid enough, Matt, that they can bring, they can try and do what Chengdu did in map 1, bring Hyo in to play Genji, you know, just to mix up this sort of wacky dive. The Sigma play looks incredibly good, you know, from Hotbar. What an addition he's been. It wasn't even ostensibly an upgrade, you know, in the flex tank spot, considering that it was Meko, but there's so much synergy in this front line. It's fantastic to see. We're going to be back after halftime, ladies and gentlemen, with our game break. We'll choose a crunch time moment, and we'll give you some more info on what we've seen so far. Stick around. We'll be back right after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Zipchair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
Thanks for sticking with us, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Overwatch League, and it's our game break presented by CHEEZIT, where we have a chance to take a breath and just sort of evaluate what we've seen so far between the NYXL and the Chengdu Hunters, Matt. It has been an interesting series, one that will definitely inform NYXL's trajectory going forward, especially because they are still looking hot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and it's justified, we're wondering about this team. Obviously, they come out of the Atlantic Division now to the Asian region. In the Atlantic, I mean, they're beating up on teams, but there's a lot of, like, mediocre to bottom teams in the Atlantic that they were just kind of crushing. So now you move into this region where you have some really strong teams, where even the worst in this region is still pretty respectable, I think, overall in the course of the league. And I think New York, you probably have to know you have to level up your play if you're going to maintain that high standard when you move into the Asian region. And that's what I think are going to show. I think they're going to show that they can hang with the likes of Seoul and Shanghai.
I mean, I don't think there is any team with more expectation than the NYXL, and they've fallen short in some big ways in the past. And, well, one of those times was actually New York's last matchup against the Chengdu Hunters, but it's time now for our crunch time presented by CHEEZIT, and we're going to talk about the front line for the NYXL because, Matt, they are crisp to the maximum tonight.
I mean, they've been money, right? I think Mono, one of, if not the best tank in the league. I think it's still arguable, right? He's phenomenal on every tank. And then Hotba, a lot of people were like looking at Hotba as potentially a downgrade from Meko, but I think Meko had up and down results last season. Obviously, a much different season in terms of like goats and everything that went on, but I think Hotba's a very talented player. I mean, you've seen him play a lot of damage dealers in the past, and the Philly Fusion and whatnot. So I don't think it's as big of a downgrade as people think, and I think there's a lot of synergy here with having Hotba in the lineup, and they've looked phenomenal. And also adding Who Are You to this team as well. We've seen him get a lot of play time. It's a super strong team, top to bottom.
I mean, I love the Genji action we got to see from Who Are You as well. Obviously, saw from Jinmu as well, but the Dragon Blade really managed to break things apart. Hotba, really interesting D.Va player, Matt. He's the kind of player that actually, snipes a lot of final blows. He's very active at securing kills. He's actually 13th ranked in damage across the whole season of D.Vas, but tied for second in self-destruct kills, but tied for third in final blows to death ratios. So he's an assassin in his own right. We know Hotba used to play a lot of Tracer. He'd love to play DPS. He's an aggressive player, and it's interesting to see how that translates over towards his D.Va and Sigma play. That's been our game break presented by CHEEZIT, ladies and gentlemen. When we return, the Chengdu Hunters, they have one more chance to stay afloat in this match against the NYXL, who look out to dominate them here. So stick around and see if the Pandas can hang on.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by CHEEZIT Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
It has been quite a night for one-sided matches so far here in the Overwatch League to kick off your weekend. And this last match may end up going the same way. The Chengdu Hunters, man, it seems like they're struggling to get a read on what NYXL are going to do.
I don't think it's Chengdu struggling to get a read on what NYXL is going to do. I think it's that Chengdu doesn't get a chance to be creative because of what's going on in terms of hero pools and what they have to do in terms of substitutions. Chengdu's biggest strength is to catch teams off guard and run weird stuff, just cause chaos. When they have to sub players in and out to just get compositions that they think work,
do they have to make these substitutions?
It's readable. I think that would be kind of the point that you need to get to. It's like, okay, well, can we just run one roster? Like, do we feel a little bit weaker in terms of maybe like a head-to-head and like a Rhine with a Sigma type of matchup, and maybe we don't have the best of the world in hit scan, but it gives us the flexibility to do a lot of other things. And that's where Chengdu, Chengdu, the biggest thing that they have is the threat of doing something crazy, being crazy, having some weird strategy nobody see it and catching a team off guard. When you have to make in substitutions, and the substitutions are so clear as to the problems that they're trying to solve, you then want to know where the weaknesses are if you're NYXL, and then two, you know what's going to happen. You know what the lineup is. So there's nothing for you to figure out on how to solve. Like right now, right? They've come out with the same lineup they had the last map. You know what's going to be Rhine with the Sigma or D.Va, and then it's going to be McCree May. If this doesn't work for Chengdu, where do they go from here? All they have is this, right? I mean,
Do you think this is... Sorry. Do you think this is to do with Lengsa and Molly sort of only playing Batiste and Zenyatta respectively? Is it...
I think it's like a combination. You have to bring in a player to play hit scan, a player to play the Baptiste, and then you also have to bring in somebody who plays like Reinhardt, like Winston in certain scenarios. So when you make that many substitutions, you're committing to a comp right there. You wouldn't make those substitutions if you weren't committing to one type of playstyle. So New York, as soon as they see that, they know exactly what to look for the rest of the series.
Wow. Well,
right, okay.
I guess Chengdu are looking for some coffee for Eviltal there. He got completely caught unaware, and I mean, already the Hunters have just boomed themselves.
Yeah, I just got to do a coffee machine if Eviltal needs some.
Yeah, well, tell him he can come over here once he's allowed. Once they're allowed back into the country, I'm sure he'd take you up on that offer. But Chengdu have that is. What a vulnerability to have on this first point hold, Matt. When we see so many teams struggle with this choke, Chengdu played ahead of the choke, but not right in front of New York spawn. And then a nutty sleep dart just broke them apart.
But they almost picked like one. It's like the worst position they could have taken. Like they didn't fall back to play the choke. They didn't get a fight at the front, so they automatically give up the point.
That is true. They were in between. Well, I mean, to be fair, you can't really count on someone hitting a sleep dart like that onto Eviltar while he's trying to get back around. Now, they
had a May wall there too,
though.
And I mean, it wasn't just a sleep dart. They were going to wall him off and kill him regardless.
Whichever way you slice it, Matt, Chengdu, again, handed over a big defensive milestone to New York with limited resistance.
And you can play that aggressive if the whole team's going to play that aggressive, right? Like, if you're going to play up and take that first fight at basically the corner, you can do that because you're going to get that second fight. But playing so disjointed, you're not going to get that second fight, which really cost Chengdu.
Yeah, they got rolled in that first fight. They haven't found any kills quite
split
yet.
Off really bad. They have to use a May wall to save it.
I mean, Nano Boost on Mano. Oh, yeah. He just turns around, goes to the shadow. Doesn't even bother looking at Jinmu, who's just twitching on the ground after, he's experiencing some form of seismic shock.
It's not a good position you're in, though, when you have to use a May wall to save one of your players. Like, they had to drop that May wall there, so that, because what was going to happen is they didn't drop the May wall, they were just going to speed boost in Nelson, and he was going to be dead. They were going to turn around and clean up everybody else. So they have to use a May wall there, but you don't even get an opportunity to do what this composition is good at, which is splitting players off. Like,
they're getting picked off, though. They're losing a player early, and it always seems to be critical. Now, that May wall Eventually is brought... Oh, Elsa. Oh, okay. All right. So it gets a little bit from the kinetic grasp, but Hopper actually gets baited in here. That's a turnaround. Hopper still gets rid of Elsa, but that is the only kill that's going to be found. Finally, some signs of life from the Chengdu Hunters. They start a fight where they don't sort of lose a player immediately and actually get to do a bit of what their team wants to, is get an early advantage and push.
Yeah, so let's see now if Chengdu can gain some control here. They win a fight, they stabilize, everything kind of coming back to normal now. See what NYXL does here, though, to force this good use of this blizzard, right? If Chengdu holds the high ground, you have to force them down from the high ground. The advantage for New York is look how close the cart is to completing checkpoint B. Should be able to just rally around the cart, get everybody set up. So this is the Deadeye from Bacon Jack up on the high ground, and then the blizzard from Jinmu indoors.
That's exactly where he wants to be. New York thought they had the catch there, but they pushed in and made themselves vulnerable.
New York can force them down from the high ground onto the cart here, and that'll be a good position to get a blizzard, right? You just got to get the cart moving. And Chengdu can't play up here forever, right? You have the double shield. You should be able to just stall this out long enough. Yep, Chengdu has to drop. Here comes the blizzard. Yep.
That's what Libero wanted now. Decent coverage on the blizzard. A lot of Chengdu are left on the high ground. For Elsa, he's okay with that for the most part. They get rid of Mano here. He's able to play right behind 18's shield. New York now starting to find things a little bit difficult.
Positive for Chengdu here is that they were comfortable enough and they knew they were going to win the fight to the point that they did not have to invest the sound barrier into that. As potentially you would have thought, like, hey, we have the sound barrier here with the blizzard. They end up getting the gravitic flux up, and as soon as they get that one kill, they know they don't have to commit anything else. So a lot of what went wrong on Paris, they're just kind of throwing ultimates in after nothing. They definitely corrected it there in that fight.
And they have a pretty powerful position here. Play the high ground with the McCree and the Sigma. They look pretty comfortable. And New York identify that and say, well, we want to be up there. We want a piece of this pie. So they're going to push through in the May wall. Okay, they catch Mano, who gets nano boosted because Libero was, Jonak was actually playing that off angle. Libero was also there. He gets an ice block. Bacon Jack may have overextended to try and find that kill. There's a very convoluted way for New York to find a pick, and they still lose Libero on the backside, and Mano doesn't have a fire.
There's players everywhere. I mean, there are players everywhere. Eviltal's around the corner. This will be a blizzard from Jinmu indoors yet again.
Okay.
So,
a sleep dart from Jonak.
Well, we got a fight breaking out on the cart between the Rhines and the Lucios. But this is what Chengdu wants. Chengdu wants this type of playstyle where players, the bodies everywhere, people are throwing ultimates out like crazy. They want to turn it into this type of game.
New York went 2 whole maps without sort of submitting to the bloodlust. Like, credit to them,
like
but here it is, 1 minute left.
It's like surrender to madness, right? Like their sanity is being drained from them.
Oh, God. they need more corruption resistance on their cloak map, but it's not going to work. Libero over the edge. NYXL now 50 seconds. Now, getting the high ground is kind of been the issue here. The Chengdu Hunters have a perfectly reasonable composition to make the most of that. And Eviltal again.
Why would Sabiel be there? I mean, that's, you can't even, there's nothing Eviltal can do. But he had a sound barrier. That's brutal. That's brutal. I mean,
New York just waited for that to happen. He's like, yo, watch me. I'm going to sit here. I bet you Eviltal is going to come screeching around a corner at me and I'll just flash him. Deadeye.
Try and boost him.
All right. Buy some time. Gravitic Flux. Bacon Jack opted into that one. As he's trying to get some flights on the spaceship with carts moving. Again, Eviltal. Well, he's well acquainted with the flash by now. Sabiel again deals with it. Oh no, it's a tough one for the Lucia here for Chengdu, but NYXL.
Chengdu played so well there. And, you know, it's just one kill that happens. Whereas Sabiel be hiding around the corner, Eviltal flying around, going off the walls. So he gets picked off, and man, that's brutal lose if you're Chengdu. Chengdu was really looking good on D. I mean, after their, well, I mean, I don't say really good, right? I mean, their point A hold was horrific, but they're looking really good there. I mean, that was, they played perfectly in terms of using ultimates as well. It's just Sabiel B comes up with an early pick.
Well, the NYXL looks like they'd actually get bogged down in the chaos that Chengdu were trying to cause, but they managed to harness it, use it themselves, but will it corrupt them? Okay, Sabiel will be down, so there's a bit of a push on the high ground from the Hunters here. They realize that NYXL a little split between the high and low ground, and now Hopper kind of awkwardly makes the decision whether to try and commit to the payload. I guess they're just going to try and get it over with, back to spawn, reset as quickly as they can. Chengdu needs to get into the fight once more because NYXL punished them yet again.
But nothing for New York here, though, towards the end. getting very close to completing the mount. See if Chengdu can get a touch, but they do have the Blizzard here to use. They have a Shatter, and they're not able to get there. It's the boots, the displacement from NYXL, knocking the players of Chengdu away.
Chengdu, man, they try and go aggressive. They try and sort of play the high ground and take the fight to New York, and we've seen this happen time and time again. In this particular match, Chengdu may be unsure about where do we start here? You know, what target are we trying to locate? And this is what NYXL do to teams, by the way. They try and, you know, they try and present you a facade that has no weaknesses, no cracks, and say, okay, well, it's up to you to find out how to actually get an advantage in this fight, positioning-wise, composition-wise, like we saw on Oasis. And again, we see so many teams break upon them like waves on rock, even though NYXL with the attacking team. It's not uncommon to see teams, man, try and take things into their own hands, but quite often you get punished more for doing that than just sitting back and playing it safe.
Yeah, absolutely. So, New York, this is interesting. Sombra composition with mono on the Winston. Probably they want to play close up, want to take that first fight. Gives them a little bit more mobility, right, to play around the buildings, hop on the D.Va as well. You can play, also with this type of composition, right, you can play Jonak from a distance and Animo down by the cart. You can let him just kind of go crazy in terms of, you know, just putting down damage. What does Chengdu play, though? So Linksa hasn't locked in yet, so he'll play the Lucy. So this is a different look for Chengdu with these players in the lineup. But maybe this is just to check, right? Sonic Arrow to throw out, Jinmu on the Sombra, really good to go. Invis, translocate, then come back. So what is Chengdu's answer to this? Is it just going to be another May McCree matchup, or are they going to play this Sombra?
I mean, NYXL in a good position here to make this spawn camp happen, right? They have high ground, they have dive tanks, they have someone like Jonak in their back line, sat with Sabiobi. Libero can actually push into Chengdu's back line and punish Jinmu. Ori as a translocator forced here. Keep your eyes on mana, keep an eye on that health bar there, and keep an eye on the defense matrix from Hotbar.
It's kind of weird in a way. I almost feel worse for Chengdu with them trying to run this than what they were running, because you're putting so much pressure on Jinmu to be able to get one of these hacks, as Sabio will be able to take out Evil Top on the high ground. As even if Jinmu gets a hack or gets an EMP up on the high ground, who are they diving? Like, there's no dive target. Like, there's no players from Chengdu that can dive. And also, if you EMP the tanks on the ground, like Jonak and Sabiobi can just play at range. They're never in harm's way. So then the Transcendence can just come down. They can Deadeye and play from a distance. The Sombra here, there's nothing to work with it other than Elsa. But if Elsa doesn't stay with the rest of his team, they're dead. Okay, so this is
a classic trap.
This is better, though. This is better, though. When you have the Winston play now, this makes sense.
Oh, Bacon Jack down early here, and keep in mind as well, no break here for Chengdu. NYXL have actually gone for it here. Animo with that pick, and maybe they were expecting that they need to do more work to control elsewhere on the high ground, maybe give Sabiobi their protection. You know, Brig and McCree playing close together like we saw at sort of the start of this season in tandem.
Well, the break here for NYXL is in so they can brawl with the Reinhardt comps, and also you can get healing to the tanks and keep the Zenyatta at range. You also have potential to just kind of play the break down with the Zen and just use them as, you know, just be able to protect the dive coming through. Sabiobi will take out Jinmu. Jinmu's still not with this EMP yet. So even with the switch off of the Rhine, now you lose so much ult charge there. A minute 49 on the clock. And mind you, New York will probably keep this going for another, let's say, 15 or 20 seconds at best case scenario for Chengdu, and then get another fight, which is probably another 20 seconds away from that. So, and he gets booped using the nano off the side after using his jump, so it doesn't have front.
That was a whip shot.
Back up, yeah.
Jonak doesn't have to use his Transcendence as well. He can save it for such time as Jinmu tries to make an EMP play here. Mano is down to Bacon Jack, but they can just back up a little bit here. EMP also gives NYXL a pole position in this fight, and Jonak is Giga with 300 health points with all that armor he gets from the rally. It's just wrong.
But best case scenario here for Chengdu is what? You're going to get another fight where you EMP and Jonak has trance. And if New York plays this right and they play the choke, they potentially could get a second fight out of this.
Matt, you commit EMP when you're down a main tank to hold and win the fight any day of the week. Now, where NYXL are getting pushed back to is much less ideal positioning for them. They don't, by default, have high ground now to play from.
They do want to give up some space, though, to allow everybody to fan out and potentially dodge the CFP.
Jinmu's trying to catch.
They know where Jonak is. But if they go all the way back to go get Jonak, they're going to lose the fight on the front.
EMP. Jinmu and Bacon Jack caught by that one. Actually, Bacon Jack hacked, sorry. It was Mano that got EMP. He got put to sleep quickly after. But again, Jonak was sitting right in the back. Plenty of time to get his Transcendence off and bring it into the fight. Again, they lose Mano, but they just don't care.
One for one.
It's the main tank.
Fine. Yeah, you trade one for one of the main tanks. It's totally fine if you're NYXL.
And you get a gainful Transcendence, even with an EMP used in that same fight. You get everything you want.
Deadeye self-destruct here for NYXL. This is looking like a 3-0.
Yeah, Chengdu now really have to make a difference in this next fight. Umpa goes a little bit low, but he's going to be able to back away. Here's a self-destruct over the top, and ample time for Jonak and Co to get inside out of the rain. Yveltal is taken down now, and a Deadeye from Sabiobi captures Bacon Jack. That's an Ana and a McCree missing now from Chengdu, and they don't have any staying power without a D.Va. The D-suit insta-headshot on towards Elsa. 8-Sing falls, and the NYXL, they've done it again. The clean 3-0. They get their revenge against the team who handed them their first 4-0 ever. But they'll be pleased with their debut, their return here to Overwatch in the Asian region. My God.
Oh, wow. What a performance there from NYXL. Well, it's interesting. It's like we saw Seoul at the beginning of the night. Everyone was like, oh, man, I can't wait for that. When they play against Shanghai, Shanghai comes in. Wow, they're super impressive. And then New York at the end of the night was like, well, hold on a sec. We're here now, too. We can show up at the party and hang out. As they looked very, very good. As you probably saw, the 3 best teams in the Asian region all win tonight.
And, I mean, talk about the DPS lineup we saw for the NYXL. One of the most consistent features of this NYXL lineup was actually Sabiobi, who in the past, there was this whole narrative about Sabiobi just being a really good leader.
Yes.
You're like, you know when someone talks about someone as like a leader, that's the first thing they say about him? It sometimes means that they don't think they're actually very good at fragging. Sabiobi over the course of this series, though, Matt, looked incredible. Sick. I mean, Rialto, that last map, I was looking at his damage numbers here, and they were popping. It wasn't
Dorado,
just...
yeah, Dorado.
It wasn't... Dorado, excuse me. It wasn't just, motivating the troops. He was actually finding some really clean shots there. The amount of times he was hitting headshots on Jinmu's Sombra, forcing translocates. Across the whole series, he looked great. He locked the legs in map 1, Matt, and, he was already MVP in my heart after that one. Fantastic showing from... the Capitan.
He's not the flashiest player, right? We don't have a huge, crazy highlight montage to run of Sabiobi with crazy plays and caster reactions, but he's just an extremely consistent player. His aim on the hit scan heroes is phenomenal, and he always seems to come up clutch. And today for New York, he was a really strong factor for them in terms of having that hit scan in a lot of the time.
So, I mean, NYXL now, Matt, they haven't skipped a beat. They've spent a decent amount of time away from competitive play, and that can have an impact, but they're still getting their scrims in.
Yeah.
Their front line is, I mean, we talk about Shanghai and Seoul looking so good. I mean, all 3 of those teams, including NYXL, what they have in common, in my opinion, are really frightening front lines. I cannot wait to see these teams now start to trade blows with one another. I mean, now I should be looking to the Asian region. If people aren't staying up, if they're in the US, they should be. I mean, I'm glad that I did. Some of these matches have been fantastic so
you'd
far.
have no option to stay up right now. I mean, yeah, you'd have to be up. But no, I've been watching a lot of these games late at night because we talk about a lot of them, when we do like the podcasts and whatnot. And just obviously to know like what are the other teams out there is the play in this region is phenomenal, and it's always fun to see all the different types of compositions they come up with. As usually it's a little bit of a different meta than what we see in NA.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I'm really loving this hero pool, Matt. We're seeing plenty of the Reinhardt play. McCree in the mix a bunch. The Pharah is also getting used there. A lot of diversity in a lot of our supports as well. We're seeing plenty of Batiste, Ana, Zen, all of that mixed in. Brig, Lucio, ton of those different ones there. So if you guys now are looking broadly over this weekend of games to come, you should be very excited. Not only does the meta look really great, the next match is going to be the Atlanta Reign versus the Philadelphia Fusion, 1 p.m. PST, which is, I don't know, it's like 8.5 hours away. Yeah. That's, if you're wondering, that's going to be very, very good. We're going to get a kip, and we're going to try and get up for that one because there's not one you want to miss there as well. So we're going to shift back over towards the North American games and see how they play out. Matt, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, been fun.
To jump on some late night games with you guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we will see you very, very soon. Remember, 8.5 hours, Atlanta Reign, Philadelphia Fusion is coming up next. We'll see you then.